It was the offer that should have made him, but nearly broke him. In 2012, the world watched as a trembling 17-year-old stood before the most powerful man in music, Simon Cowell, and received an ultimatum that would define the rest of his life. "Ditch the girl and I'll make you a star," was the subtext of Cowell's critique. Most teenagers, blinded by the glitz of a potential million-pound contract, would have packed their bags and left their partner in the dust. But Jonathan Antoine chose loyalty over the fast track to fame, a move that endeared him to millions but placed a target on his back within the industry. Looking back from 2026, we can see that this moment wasn't just about a singing duo. It was the first time Jonathan stood up to a machine designed to chew up and spit out young talent. The industry doesn't like no, and for years, it seemed like the industry was punishing him for his defiance. We've seen the patterns before. The initial explosion of hype followed by a strategic cooling off when the artist doesn't play the corporate game. But what the public didn't see was the internal war Jonathan was fighting just to keep his voice from cracking under the weight of a world he never asked to lead. He was a boy with an operatic gift trapped in a pop star's nightmare, and the transition from that stage to the man he is today has been anything but a fairy tale. It's a story of survival in a world that prefers its stars to be silent and compliant. Second place is often a death sentence in reality TV, and Jonathan felt the noose tightening almost immediately. When Ashley and Pudsey, a girl and her dancing dog, took the crown, a sinking organs feeling settled into Jonathan's chest that wouldn't leave for nearly a decade. While the public saw a gracious loser, the reality was a young man thrust into a grueling sicko contract that felt more like a cage than a career. The second place curse is a documented phenomenon in talent shows. You get the fame but none of the creative control, and the label often treats you as a secondary asset to the winner. Jonathan was shuffled into the operatic pop genre, a middle ground that satisfied neither the purists nor the teenagers. He was being molded into a product, a Pavarotti-like caricature, while his own musical soul was screaming for something more authentic. By the time 2024 rolled around, rumors were swirling that Jonathan had completely retired, exhausted by the constant pressure to live up to a 12-minute audition from his childhood. The struggle wasn't just about the music. It was about the identity crisis that comes when your big break feels like a mistake. Every time he stepped on stage, he wasn't just singing for an audience. He was singing against the ghost of that 17-year-old boy everyone wanted him to remain. The industry wanted a gimmick, but Jonathan wanted a career, and the friction between those two worlds nearly caused him to walk away from the microphone for good. While the cameras stopped rolling, a battle with his own reflection was just beginning. For years, Jonathan's weight was as much a talking point as his high CS, and the scrutiny took a devastating toll. During his stints in America, the fast food culture and the isolation of touring life pushed him to a breaking point that he has only recently felt comfortable discussing. He described himself as being in a terrible state, not just physically, but spiritually. It wasn't just about the numbers on a scale. It was about a total loss of agency over his own body. In an industry that demands physical perfection, Jonathan's journey to losing over 5 stone wasn't a vanity project. It was a survival tactic. He started walking 10,000 steps a day, not for the aesthetic, but to clear the brain fog that was threatening to drown his creativity. But weight loss is never a magic fix for the mind. As the pounds dropped, the underlying anxieties didn't vanish. They became sharper. He had to learn how to exist in a body that felt alien to him, all while the world continued to judge his progress. Recent speculations about his health have often missed the mark. It wasn't a sudden glow-up for a magazine cover. It was a slow, painful reclamation of his health after years of using food as a shield against the pressures of fame. He had to dismantle the shy big kid persona to find the disciplined man underneath, a process that involved more setbacks than the public ever realized. It wasn't just stage fright. It was a neurodivergent reality hidden in plain sight. In a revelation that sent shockwaves through his fanbase between 2023 and 2025, Jonathan went public with his autism diagnosis. For 27 years, he had lived in a world where the lights were too bright, the noises were too loud, and the social cues felt like a foreign language he hadn't been taught. Receiving this diagnosis wasn't a tragedy for him, it was a massive relief. It recontextualized his entire life, explaining why the backstage chaos of a television set felt like a sensory assault, and why he often retreated into total isolation after a performance. In the past, the media labeled him as difficult or reclusive, but the truth was much more profound. He was navigating a neurotypical industry with a neurodivergent mind, a feat that is exhausting beyond words. This diagnosis allowed him to finally stop apologizing for who he was. He began to understand his obsessive dedication to music not as a quirk, but as a special interest that allowed him to achieve a level of technical mastery most singers only dream of. By 2026, Jonathan has become an accidental advocate, showing that being on the spectrum isn't a barrier to a world-class career. It's just a different way of experiencing the music. This new self-awareness has changed the way he performs, the way he interviews, and most importantly, the way he views his own future. He no longer feels the need to mask his personality to fit the expectations of a record executive. A new voice emerged in March 2026, and it sounds nothing like the Pavarotti clone the labels demanded. Jonathan's latest album, Speaking to You, is the sound of a man who has finally fired his handlers. For years, he was told what to sing, how to dress, and which high notes to hit to ensure maximum commercial appeal. But in this new era, the production is raw, the song choices are personal, and the vocal delivery is unguarded. He has moved away from the bombastic, overproduced arrangements of his youth toward a style that highlights the nuances of his maturity. This isn't just about opera anymore. It's about storytelling. The 2026 update on his career reveals an artist who is finally comfortable with silence and subtlety. The industry's reaction has been mixed. Some miss the powerhouse gimmick, but the fans who have followed him since 2012 are seeing a version of Jonathan that is finally at peace. He's taking risks that he never would have dared under a major label, incorporating elements of contemporary classical and even ambient sounds that reflect his current headspace. This album serves as a manifesto of independence. It's a middle finger to the sicko sound, and a warm embrace to the community that stuck by him through his darkest years. He isn't chasing a #1 single anymore. He's chasing a legacy. The 2026 Jonathan Antoine is an artist who would rather sell 10 records that mean something than 10 million records that feel like a lie. Behind the high notes lay a silent house and a heartbreak that hit harder than any bad review. For those on the spectrum, the bond with animals can often be more profound and stabilizing than human relationships. And for Jonathan, his cats Polly and Pandora were his anchor in a chaotic world. They were with him before the BGT fame, during the peak of the madness, and through the long years of reinvention. When news broke of their passing, fans saw a side of Jonathan that was raw and deeply vulnerable. This wasn't just the loss of pets, it was the end of an era of his life. These animals were the only ones who didn't want anything from him. They didn't care about his fame or his voice. Their loss triggered a period of deep reflection that influenced the melancholic undertones of his 2026 work. He has spoken about the heavy silence in his home studio, a space that once echoed with their presence. This grief, while personal, has humanized him in a way that no PR campaign ever could. It's a reminder that beneath the extraordinary talent is a man who feels loss with an intensity that is often overwhelming. However, he has channeled that pain into his music, creating a sonic tribute that resonates with anyone who has ever felt the sting of losing a companion. In 2026, Jonathan is learning to navigate a world without his old anchors, forcing him to find a new kind of strength within himself. The stage has shifted from the Royal Albert Hall to a high-tech home studio, and the reason is purely tactical. While the world was looking for him on the traditional touring circuit, Jonathan was busy building a digital empire. In an unexpected move, he has successfully pivoted into the world of voice acting and gaming soundtracks. By 2026, his voice can be heard in several major AAA video game titles, a career move that allows him to utilize his incredible vocal range without the sensory overload of a live tour. He has built a state-of-the-art studio at his home, giving him total control over his environment and his output. This introvert's dream setup has allowed him to be more productive than ever before. He isn't just a singer for hire. He's a producer, an engineer, and a creator who understands the modern landscape of the creator economy. He's bypassed the traditional gatekeepers, using platforms like YouTube and specialized gaming forums to connect directly with a new generation of listeners who don't even know he was once on a reality show. This tactical retreat from the mainstream wasn't a failure. It was a masterstroke of career longevity. He's no longer at the mercy of a label's marketing budget. He is the label. As we look at the landscape of 2026, Jonathan Antoine stands as a blueprint for how to survive the talent show machine. You take the fame, you learn the craft, and then you disappear long enough to come back as someone they can't control. Jonathan Antoine isn't a has-been. He's the first artist to actually escape the sicko machine alive. As we wrap up this investigative look into his 2026 status, the picture is clear. The shy boy from Essex is gone, replaced by a man who has navigated weight loss, a late-in-life neurodivergent diagnosis, and the crushing weight of public expectation. He didn't just survive the fame, he outlasted it. Jonathan has proven that the big break is often just a test of character, and by refusing to ditch his friend, refusing to compromise his health, and refusing to hide his true self, he has won a victory that no trophy could represent. The 2026 update on Jonathan Antoine is one of triumph, not of record sales, but of the human spirit. He has reclaimed his voice, his body, and his story. Whether he's singing a classic aria or voicing a digital character, the resonance is the same. It's the sound of freedom. He's no longer the kid who was lucky to be there. He's the man who decided that there wasn't good enough for him.